Open the Estacada City Council meeting. If I could have the Pledge of Allegiance, if you'll all join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I have roll call, please?
Counselor Blevins,
Here.
Counselor Dolzall,
Here.
Counselor Hill. Here. Nicole Roy's absent, Counselor Metcalf,
Here.
Counselor Tenbush,
Here.
Mayor Drinkwine.
Here, thank you very much for that. Okay, we have the first chance for citizen and community group comments. I don't have any forms in front of me. Are there any online?
No.
No. Okay, we will continue on with the consent agenda. You've all had a chance to read over the consent agenda. Do I have any questions? Any add-ons? You want to move anything down the council business? If not, can I get a motion on the floor, please?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, have a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much for that. Okay, we are now at department and committee reports. We will start off with the city manager's report.
Okay, and I didn't do a slideshow today because I'm going to keep this really brief. I know we have a long meeting ahead. But I just wanted to share that we heard last week that the school district is interested in getting some additional street lighting around the middle school. So I'm checking in, I've got the poll numbers and I'll be reaching out to PGE to see. Previously, we've been able to just request the lights, they install them, and then we pay the energy. So hopefully that's how that will go. And then we have Chief Turway with us tonight, and I wanted to give him some time to also share a couple things.
Yeah, I know you guys have a long meeting, so I'll also be brief. Last week at the Traffic and Public Safety Committee meeting, and you guys were all present. There was a lot of talk about speed and stop signs and traffic safety around town. So I did reach out to our traffic team and had one of our motors out here the following day. He was very active. He took a several hour period of his day to do some enforcement around the city. Also had one of our sergeants and one of our deputies who are working in the area also come out and do some directed patrol. And I know that's continued throughout the week. So I've relayed the message that you guys have all given about what the priorities are. And I know they've have gotten some feedback already from the community and other people that they're seeing a very active police force out there. And the goal is obviously always education. With that comes enforcement. But it's really about making the city safer, and that's what their goal is. So they're taking what you guys have asked and put that all, we're taking that to heart and actually putting it in place. So that's really all I had to report now.
Okay, great. Any questions for the chief before I let him go? Okay, thank you, sir. And we've seen the red and blue flashing and we love it. So thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, next we are going to have quarterly reports from all our committee and commissions. First on the list, I'm going to have Downtown Estacada Commission, Sherry Fox.
Welcome.
Good jacket there. You're representing.
Good evening. I just want to say that it should be not allowed to have a meeting when there's a World Series going on anyhow. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. As you know, I'm Sherry Fox Hames. I am the chair of the Downtown Estacada Commission. We've had two members that have actually resigned. One of them went back to work. Another one had a injury and just could not do it. We are actively looking for additional members. We had some great advertisement for our Oktoberfest event this last month. We were in an Oregonian, and we were in a new website called Here is Oregon. So that was awesome. We had over 700 participants. This event is growing every year. One of the things that we did this year is we repositioned the booth placements. We actually positioned them into the businesses on Broadway, which actually helped the businesses also gain participation from the attendees from the event. So hopefully there was a little bit of confusion because we've always had the tents face outside from the businesses. So there was a little confusion on that, but we hoped to continue that and do that from here on out so that we are partnering with the businesses that are on Broadway as well. And also we are going to be making a lapel pin that says Estacada Oktoberfest. We're not going to put a year on it so that we can use them year after year. And we're finding out that this is a big thing amongst the Oktoberfest community where they like to go to different Oktoberfests and share them and trade them. So we're going to make one for next year for us. As you all know, we have our upcoming tree lighting event that will take place on December 5th from 6 to 8. It will take place again at the Harvest Square Market, and thank you very much for Harvest Market for hosting that again in the little market, in the little square. Santa will be taking pictures here at City Hall again. And we also are planning to reach out to the high school to attract more youth involvement within the community and then also with our events. Any questions?
No? Sounds very exciting stuff you got going on there. All right.
Awesome. All right.
Get back to that game.
Enjoy your game. Thanks for
Uh,
everything you do too.
Yes. Okay, next we have the library board. Courtney,
And she is online.
is she online? She there?
She and Steven should be online.
Okay, great.
Steven's with Parks. Okay.
Hi, you guys.
Hi, Courtney.
Hey. So this past quarter, we have been doing a lot of discussion about library fines. And we've also been working on updating some of the language in the collection development policy. What's written is, I don't know, but I think Michelle said like 15 years old. So we're just kind of updating that stuff. And we've also been discussing the possibility of some library upgrades and improvements. And the last thing I wanted to mention was that, and maybe you already know this, but Miss Deborah received a grant for us to put in a permanent story walk outside, you know, the path with the boards, and she puts different story up periodically. This will be a more permanent solution and more weather safe. So that was really exciting.
That's great. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions for Courtney? No, sounds like you're doing great work up there, so we appreciate you. Thank you very much. Did you cut her up? Oh, no. All right, next on the list, I have the arts with Jesse Kerr.
Hello, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jessie Kerr, and I'm the Chair of the Arts Commission. This has been kind of a quiet quarter for us. We've been planning, reviewing, and looking forward to what's coming next. So we're still waiting on some signs to install our Poetry in Public Places, which will be in 18 different locations in town. We look forward to having a sort of a debut, and we will make sure that you're all invited if you're able to come for like a ribbon cutting for that. We are also looking forward to spearheading our community's first tiny art show. Lots of communities around us participate in this, and it's basically like an ask to the community to create little tiny like 3x3 art pieces. We will also be providing those maybe 50 or 75 to the community at no cost to encourage participation. And then once those pieces are returned to us, we'll have a tiny art show at the library. So we're really excited about that. That will be what is coming to the library when our 120th year art comes down to City Hall. That should be in January. Really looking forward to having you guys be able to appreciate that. If you haven't made it up to the library yet, it's a pretty incredible collection of collage and needlework and paintings that really reflect our history. We're also looking forward to sponsoring a 2-part painting workshop with Spiral Gallery artist Christina Sellers. That will be happening in January and February. This fall during our planning meeting, we're really working on streamlining a process to accept applications from community members and artists who would like to run workshops that the Arts Commission can sponsor. So we're really trying to streamline that process and make it take it a little bit off our plate and allow some community members to be more financed and engaged and able to put on some workshops for our community. And lastly, we also do have openings. We are 5 strong still in the Arts Commission, but we have openings and are really hoping to have some more people join us soon. And we're looking forward to taking some action on the percent for public art. We have a meeting soon to see how we can take some action and really start putting that little fund to use around our community. So hoping that we'll be spearheading, memorializing one of our summer celebration, one of our big paper mache sculptures. Hopefully we'll be able to sort of memorialize that in a sculpture next year. That will be our first goal.
Okay, great. Well, that's very exciting stuff. Any questions for?
Just a
John?
quick one, Christina Sellers.
Yes.
Yeah, that was like January, February. What was that gonna be?
It's going to be a 2-part painting workshop.
Gotcha. Thank you.
She's working on developing the outline for it.
Okay.
Jonathan?
I just want to say thanks. My kid's into art and stuff, and this community is really big in sports and stuff like that. But it's really cool to see that you guys are expanding new opportunities just to get more people involved in different ways. And this is one of the more engaged things I've heard in a while. So thank you for taking the time to do this.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have traffic safety, Carrie Dobbs.
Always come with a smile.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council, staff, chief. This is the review. My name is Kerry Dobbs. I'm the vice chair of the Traffic Public Safety Committee. This is the report for the last 3 months, so just updates on the outline. August of 25, this last August, on the 8th, we had National Night Out. This is at the fire department over there in front of everything. It was a big success. A lot of families showed up, good community engagement. Kids was the big deal. They got fire hats, you know, little kids running around with the fire hats. That's a good thing. We had vehicles there from the sheriff's office and displayed. We had a horse there named Deputy Ducky. That was a big thing because the kids pet the horse and the horse was just totally acclimated to the kids. It was a great thing. And we also had a canine dog that could cover, get this, 70 acres in 1 hour. This dog was just, and part of the thing that what was cool about this dog is everybody had to stay back in the team when they're searching for somebody because the dog would get a scent. And so everybody, the handler had to take the dog out in front of everybody because this dog head down and just went back and forth. It's just amazing. Kudos to that deputy that with the canine unit there. Kids love the dogs. The sheriff, that was a sheriff posse with Deputy Ducky. And we had vendors, local vendors there. That was really good. Tasty treats. We put up 74 swag bags for the kids and handed out 97 identification kits to the kids. So it was a good thing. It's just a lot of folks came with their kids, grandkids, and that was what was really good. Comments of the low keyed and the way it's supposed to be for the community. So that was a big thing. On August 19th, we discussed the Estacada Fire Department emergency 72-hour kit checklist, which is on our website now. Our liaison, Matt Blevins, and Jim Moriarty, the president, we went down, we do field trips. We went down behind the Red Fox and we were checking the homeless area in there. We found several areas where camps have been recently occupied. What we did is we photo these things and we have access to all the photos of kind of what's going on in the area as far as folks residing. We also set up, we went down further down on the trails behind the river, along the river. There's some benches down there. They're pretty much deteriorated just over time. Just an observation, they're park benches. And then in the side of the banks there's notched out dwellings. So we passed a motion on our neighborhood sign campaign, Estacada Drive Safe. We passed a motion to install 20-mile-an-hour signs all throughout town and recommended to the city council. We passed a motion to recommend the city council that developers have to install speed humps in new developments. We passed a motion to recommend that the city council that a four-way stop be installed at Northwest Broadway and Northeast Liberty Lane, and a four-way stop be installed at Northwest Hillway and Northwest Broadway Court. We also updated the city council about the code enforcement handling out violations in town with photographs of vehicles and locations. So we take field trips every week, at least one, sometimes two, just to get the feel of the pulse of what's going on in town. We caught a video, we played a video, which is on documented, of a motorcyclist in a packet that we submitted in Campanella, driving around speed humps on Northeast Hillway, proving once again, they work. People, if speed humps work. Ask the public. We recommend that the fast job, we thank for Don and his team and Melanie for having them. There was a pothole that was opened up on Northeast Carroll Street towards Shafford. There was an injury. A bicycle guy hit that thing, flipped over. He's gonna live. It's a joke. He's fine. He's fine. But the thing is, Don moved quick and got that like buttoned up really fast. Great job. September, our September meeting, we discussed the recent break-in in vehicles near Pregnancy Resource Center. We have photos on that. Recent RV parking everywhere in town. We have photos on that. The homeless population, photos on that. Recent accidents, 6th and Cemetery, 224 in Main, 224 in 2nd Avenue, and updates in the Campanella neighborhood. Myself and Mr. Moriarty took a field trip behind Timber Park on Lakeshore Drive. This was another one of the field trips we located behind there. A lot of trash and bags down there where people are residing. People come, they go, they come, they go. 3 members of our traffic safety committee volunteered to assist safe routes to school as a public advisory committee. And we will be assisting the school district with a walk audit, collecting crash and enrollment data, document completed projects, and student focus group, and an evening community open house. These are things that we've worked on. We passed a motion to purchase new drive signs. We purchased those. October, in our meeting, the last meeting, the city council, it was shortened because we had a joint workshop with the council. We had 8 members of our community come out, and this was in Cazadero. Excuse me, and where am I at? This was in Campanella. And it was a great meeting. A lot of people voiced their opinions, and everybody had one word in common: speeding. And that's we're targeting that. Things are happening. It's really good. We discussed the updates there, including the crosswalks, a 4-way stop signs, street signage, and a new speed hump. We discussed the recent meeting with the superintendent, Ryan Carpenter, a man of integrity, his staff, Danny Randall and Maggie Kelly. We had a great meeting with them. Their pinpoints were Northeast 6th Avenue and Broadway Street. That's the first thing they brought up for a stop sign. And then also receiving a lot of calls on Pierce Street, which has been rendered. Once again, great job. And the reason this really works great, just to give you a dimension on those speed humps, they're around 200 feet apart. So you don't get to accelerate a lot before you hit another one. And they work. And Jim and I were out there and we're watching people go over them, and by golly, they're slowing down. That's a good thing. So we discussed recent Clackamas County resources at the Red Soil campus in regards to public health, transportation departments. The transportation department they have a campaign also. It's called Drive to Zero Traffic Campaign. They have yellow yard signs that are available also. At the public health department, we received, at the last meeting, our traffic meeting. What's available is rifle gun locks, small gun locks for handguns, and for pistols. And these cases are free to the community. And you go online on our website, you'll find an email there and you can respond there. So you can, I think you could get up to 5 of them at a time, which is nice to lock up the guns and just be safe. We discussed Southeast Fourth and Main Street intersection vehicles. Since then, we have a lit sign over there that flashes at the stop sign, which is great, gets people's attention. Some people, for some unbeknownst, just kind of drive through it, do a California roll. That's in gear. Thank you, Melanie and Dawn, for that. We passed a motion to accept Michelle Marthaler as our committee member number 7. Welcome, Michelle, if you're watching. We passed a motion to purchase 125 new drive sign signs. We passed a motion to work with ODOT and get the 40-mile-an-hour sign near Welcome to Estacada sign as you're coming in. Moved back towards the other side of Dick's Loggings and by the sewer plant because the truckers are waking up the citizens on Lake Shore around 3 to 4. And that's an early alarm clock. We passed a motion to amend the speed hump eligibility checklist on number 5, item 9, number 5, which are grades on the street less than 8%. We want a clause in there that adds a under review statement depending on slope. We've went through all the slope before. It's quite a bit higher on the rate of slope in different areas. Portland, Beaverton, everybody has a higher slope or grade that's allowed. And so each time public comes for requests for speed humps, we can look at each one individually and see if there's a way to make it happen by the voice of the public. Thank you very much for your time, and that's what I got.
All right. Well, that was a play-by-play. I'm not even gonna ask you a question because I think it was all there. Anybody got anything for Kurt?
No, I just want to comment that I had a community member, business owner that runs a daycare approach me outside of the council and tell me that thank you for the Pierce. They said it has worked extremely well in slowing people down in the model of speed hump. So maybe that'd be something to look at as we clean up our policy on that and get more dialed in what we're doing. I did hear from, like I said, somebody that's running a preschool there saying it's helped immensely for that. So thank you for your work. It's great.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
All right, thank you, Cal.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, next is Parks, Steve Shebro.
And he's online.
Oh, okay.
Hey there. Sorry I couldn't make it tonight.
Yeah, that's all right.
So the last quarter has been fairly busy. We had the last half of our concert series, the whole thing went really well. It was all 5 shows were really well attended. I mean, even the one where we had to swap the band out at the last minute due to a cancellation was still pretty well attended. So it was a really good time and great thing to bring to the community. We just did not have the trick or trot after a lot of preparation. I'm not sure if you heard, but the weather was hit or miss all day. And actually, I was out there marking the course and doing drawings all along the sidewalk, all along the route with a sidewalk chalk, and it was clear blue sky, but I could see a black cloud coming, and we had everything set up, and then a massive sustained high wind came in and it broke the canopy that we were using. We were hit with hail and rain, and it just destroyed all of our wavers. We couldn't set up the inflatable arch. That was a non-starter, and basically everything that we needed to hold the event was pretty much wrecked, and then all of the sidewalk chalk art had actually been completely wiped out by the rain. So we decided to call it, which was a real bummer because 20 minutes later it was totally stable, clear blue skies again. But we wouldn't have been able to have anyone sign waivers. Was kind of a big one for us because it's with the stormy weather, maybe it's more likely to, someone might get injured, and if we don't have waivers, then, but, yeah, and also having the canopy completely destroyed and just really no resources to hold it. We had a bailout. But we have, everything that we need to put it on next year. We've also recently passed a couple of motions. One of them has already been seen through. One was to just get more dogway stations at Wade Creek Park, and that's been addressed. And then one that I don't know if it made it up, and I can raise this outside of this meeting, is there was the Bee City came to one of our meetings and asked if they could start doing some using a little bit of park space to do wildflower gardens. And we made a motion to approve that. We wanted to start with Gardner Park, and at some point soon, I want to go talk. I'll come in and speak with who I need to about where we want to do it and just what all is involved, which is actually very little. They'll do everything. It's really just a matter of giving them some space. And then upcoming, we have another winter event plan. We did a movie night last year, and we didn't, I don't remember if we didn't make a flyer. I know a flyer didn't get out, so it wasn't very well promoted, but we did have it, and some people did show up. But we want to do something similar. Wade Creek Community Room, have a movie, but don't make the movie the focal point this time, and actually have it more of a just kind of a general holiday thing where we're going to set up an ornament making station, and the movie will be playing, and then we'll have some snacks and all that, and hot chocolate and everything. And it's the kind of thing where people don't have to commit to the whole evening. Yeah, that's our next plan. And then further out, we're almost done putting a lot of the sprint and the spring stuff together. So the 5K race that we have planned for April, that's been USATF certified. I've had to go through all this training to do all this stuff to get the event insured, and yeah, application's almost done, and then the website for that is almost done as well. And it's much further out, but there's been a lot of work going into that.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you've been very busy.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Stephen?
Will there be marshmallows?
Marshmallows.
Of
Bunch of
course,
chocolate.
insane.
Yeah, there you go. Any other? No? Great job, and thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
All right, I have Economic Development Commission. I don't know who's speaking on that. Is there anybody here for
I don't
that
think
tonight?
anybody's here.
Okay, great. Then that is all of the commissions. We thank you all for your service. You've done great things, and it sounds like the city is in healthy condition, so we appreciate everything that you're doing. Jerry?
I just want to, put it out there. Yeah, I know it was said by a couple of the speakers tonight, but we are in need of volunteers for our city commissions. There are some empty seats, so if you want to get involved and be active in the city, check out the city's website, see which commissions have openings, and see what might fit, what might work for you. But we definitely are in need of volunteers for our city commissions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jerry, for that. That will be all on that. And now we're going to go into a public hearing. So I will now close the city council, open the public hearing. This is already an open hearing on this particular item. So we are going to talk about the subdivision 2025-03-S Amen Heights, continued from October 13th. So I'll hand it over to Alan.
All right. Thank you, Mayor.
You're most welcome.
Good evening, council and members of the public. I will be presenting Planning Commission's recommendation for this subdivision application called Amen Heights. Okay, the applicant is William Highlands, and he's represented by consultant Pat Sissel, who of Sissel Engineering, and they are both in attendance tonight. Yeah, just to give a quick rundown of the proposal. So it is for a 19-lot subdivision for future single-family residential development. It's right up the hill. So if you just head out City Hall, go up Southeast 4th, just a few blocks up the hill. Yeah, and I'll show maps of that shortly. Each new lot that's created would be between just over 5,000 and 10,000 square feet. It would involve frontage improvements to Southeast Fourth, and then a new public dead end cul-de-sac street, which is proposed to be called Southeast Panics Place. There are also three variances requested as part of this application, and they regard sidewalks, street grade, and the length of the new street. All right, that's kind of hard to see in this slide here, but that blue rectangle there, that is the subject site. And let me see if we can get the cursor going here. Okay, so City Hall is right around here. Then we come up Southeast Fourth, up the hill, and then we are right to the north of Southeast Fourth. Oh, and actually, I just wanted to talk about this. So the white lines are the topographical lines that just shows elevation above sea level. And so what we have is about I think, what do my notes say? It's about 130 feet of elevation gain from the southwest corner to the northeast corner. So it's a fairly steep hill. Then just zooming in here, this is from the recent property line adjustment that the applicant also submitted and was approved by the city. So this is just showing the property line adjustment, so that the current line there on the yellow dotted line would be moved to the southwest corner there to create a very small lot in the corner. And then along Southeast Fourth there is that will be right-of-way dedication to accommodate the new curve of Southeast Fourth there when that property develops. And then look at the zoning. This is our comprehensive plan map. So the site is zoned R2, which is our medium density residential. And you can see it's surrounded by low density residential, that's the pale yellow. And then off to the west there, we have the downtown zone. Okay, here's the preliminary plan. Yeah, so this is the layout of the 19 proposed lots in the subdivision. There are two sections of the new street. So there's the public section, which is the main part of it that kind of snakes up the hill.
If you use your mouse, can people see?
Oh, sure. Yeah. It's a little jerky, but yeah. Okay, so this section here, this is the public street section. And it terminates in what's called a hammerhead turnaround, and this is required by the fire district. So those are the two sections of the new street. And then we have here this parcel in the corner that we saw on the map, the property line adjustment map. And that is to be developed at a later time. And then I just flipped it on its side. It's zoomed in a little bit more, so just to give a better view of it. Okay, and getting into the approval criteria. So these are all the Estacada Municipal Code sections that are applicable to this subdivision with variances proposal. And so while the Planning Commission finds that all relevant standards can be met with conditions, I'm just going to spend some time discussing the variance requests and the street designs and improvements. Okay, so there were three variance requests. And the first one is regarding the width and design of Southeast Panics Place, the new street. And so here is the city's neighborhood local street cross-section alternative design. It's a mouthful. So you see we have two sidewalks and then two drive lanes and just parking on one side of the street. So the variance request is to only build a sidewalk on the west side of the street. And then moving to variance 2, this regards maximum slope allowed for streets in the city. And so our standards say that grades shall not exceed 12% on other streets, or in this case, on local streets. And so the request is to allow a grade for the new public street to reach 15% instead of 12. And then the third request This regards maximum length allowed for dead-end streets. And so in the city, dead-end streets in residential partitions or subdivisions shall not exceed 400 feet in length. And so the request here is to allow the new street, Southeast Panics Place, to reach around 650 feet in length. And so each of these requests is dealt with separately in Planning Commission's report. There's different reasons for each request. Therefore, there's different findings and different conditions of approval. But for the sake of time, I'm going to present them as a bundle since the recommendation is the same. Okay, so we'll get into the actual criteria here. So the city has a code section specifically for variance requests. And typically, Planning Commission makes final decisions on standalone variances. But because the subdivision design is dependent on the granting of the 3 variances that I just went over, and members of council have expressed concerns with the requests, it isn't really feasible to tease apart the variances in that way from the subdivision application. And so I'll present the criteria that staff and the Planning Commission applied when formulating our recommendations. Okay, so this first section states that when variances cannot be approved. And so section A says, cannot be approved, cannot be granted to allow the use of property for a purpose not authorized within the zone in which the proposed use would be located. And so the applicant intends to create residential lots in a residential zone, and that's allowed outright, so section A does not apply. And section B says, cannot be granted to increase building height more than 10% higher. What else? Or allow construction of a structure 1 story higher than the finished ground elevation, etc. Applicant is not proposing to build structures that exceed height limits. So section B does not apply. And because neither of these sections apply, the criteria for this section is met, and we can move on to the next section. Okay, so this one's a little trickier. So variance may be granted only in the event that either subsection A or B of the section applies and subsections C and D of the sections also apply. So what that means is that A or B can apply, but C and D must apply. So you can have ABCD, ACD, or BCD. We'll go over it in detail. It'll make more sense in a second. Okay, so I'll start with A and B. So if either of these subsections apply, then we can move forward. So A says exceptional or extraordinary circumstances apply to the property, which do not apply generally to other properties in the same zone or vicinity, and result from lot size or shape, topography, or other circumstances over which the owners of property, since enactment of the ordinance, have had no control. And so the applicant claims that the variances are necessary because of the existing slopes on site, as well as the lack of connectivity to surrounding streets to the north, west, and east. And this is discussed in length in the report. The Planning Commission finds that the applicant did not adequately address how these circumstances necessitate the variances, and therefore finds that subsection A does not apply. So we'll go on to B and see if that does apply. So B states that the variance is necessary so that the applicant can enjoy a property right, the nature of which owners of other property in the same zone or vicinity possess. And the Planning Commission did find that these variances would allow the applicant to enjoy a property right which owners of the other properties in the same vicinity possess. And so subsection B does apply. And so since B applies, we can move on to C and D. So both of these need to apply in order for the variance request to be valid. C reads, the variance would not be materially detrimental to the purpose of this title or to property in the zone or vicinity in which the property is located, or otherwise conflict with the objectives of any city plan or policy. And so after careful review and advising from our agency partners, the Planning Commission finds that these variances would not be materially detrimental to the purpose of this title or to property in the zone or vicinity in which the property is located, or otherwise conflict with city plans or policy. And so D reads, the hardship is not self-imposed, and the variance requested is the minimum variance which would alleviate the hardship. So the Planning Commission finds that the variances requested are the minimum variances which would alleviate the hardships. And so subsection D also applies. And since subsection B and C and D are met, the criteria for this subsection 16.100.20 are met, and the circumstances for granting the 3 variances are met. Okay, now I will pivot to just talking a bit about the street designs. First, I'm going to take a drink. Hold on. Sorry. Okay. See, where are we? Okay, so this is the cross section for the public street segment of Southeast Mannix Place. So we're looking north there. We've got a 27-foot curb to curb paved width. And then we've got the 5-foot sidewalk and curve off to the west side there. And then there's a kind of a retaining wall off to the on the east side there. Okay, and this is at the north end of the street. So this is the Hammerhead turnaround. And so this is looking southeast. So yeah, we've got the 20-foot width there. And also see here, this is just so the aerial view of the proposed turnaround. And then also this is a diagram from the Oregon Fire Code that was provided by the fire marshal. And this shows that the design that the fire code requires is all the specifications of that design are met with the proposed design. Okay, and finally, the street improvements to the south of the site on Southeast 4th. And so let's see, we have a 17-foot half-street paved section there, the 5-foot sidewalk on the north, and then a 4-foot landscape wall there along the site frontage. The city would be responsible for the construction of the southern half of that section of Southeast 4th. Okay, and finally, the Planning Commission's recommendation. The Planning Commission finds that this application for subdivision with variances can meet all applicable approval criteria and therefore recommends approval subject to the listed conditions. I'm not going to read all the conditions for you, but this is just a general summary of them. So a new geotechnical or an updated geotechnical report would be required. Public improvements would be required. So that's sewer, water, etc. Streets and sidewalks would be built to modified but acceptable standards. 10-foot public utilities easements would be required. Stormwater would be managed with a drainage plan. And then the sewer and water service would be extended up from Southeast 4th Avenue. And finally, all requested fire code conditions are included in the recommended list of conditions. And that pretty much concludes my my presentation. So we can have public and applicant comment. I can field council questions, and I imagine the applicant team is eager to do that as well. Council can discuss, and then we will be looking for a motion to approve as I presented the application, approve with changes, or to deny with findings.
Okay. I will read a couple things here before we get to that point. Staff, is there any correspondence regarding the application this time?
Correspondence, we did, let me look at the exhibits here. There was a public comment, but that was from some time ago. I believe that was over a month ago. It's exhibit 10. So it's included, but we have not had any since that time. I've had correspondence with counselors, but not with other members of the public.
Okay, thank you very much for that. All right, I will now read a statement about evidence presented at the hearing, an issue which may be the basis for an appeal to LUBA and be raised prior to the close of the record at the final eventuary hearing on the specific application. Such issue shall be raised with sufficient specificity so as to afford LUBA and the parties an adequate opportunity to respond to each issue. A failure of an issue to be raised at the hearing or in person or by letter, or failure to provide sufficient specificity to afford LUBA and the parties an adequate opportunity to respond to the issue precludes an appeal to LUBA on the issue. Okay, would the applicant please come up to mic at this point? Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Pat Sissel with Sissel Engineering, 375 Portland Avenue, Gladstone. I'm here tonight with Bill Highlands, the applicant. And also online, we have Ben Anderson with GeoPacific Engineering, in case you have some geotechnical related questions. He's available until 7:30. So I want to get through
All right,
this and just so you know that he has a time constraint.
excellent. We'll try to get on that right away then.
All right. Do you have our presentation ready to go out?
I didn't receive a presentation.
Oh, it was the same one for the planning.
Oh,
commission
okay,
meeting.
I can call it up.
Okay.
I can call it up.
So about 10 months ago, we came before the city council for the same site for a 12-lot subdivision. And there were two variance requests with that application. Those two are rolled into this application as well. And those two variances were for the elimination of the sidewalk on one side of the street and for the 15% street grade. And after the subdivision was approved, we began getting quotes from contractors to build the development, and they were higher than expected. The topography of the site lends itself to higher costs. Significant retaining walls are going to be needed on this property, which are very expensive. And then the improvements to Fourth Avenue, we found are going to be more expensive than what we were originally anticipating. So those construction costs were enlightening. And then we also found out that from the home builders that were interested in purchasing the lots, that they didn't place much more value on a 10,000 square foot to 20,000 square foot lot than they do on a 5,000 square foot lot. So that was kind of a double whammy that, the value that we were hoping was in the lots was not, and then the construction costs were higher than anticipated. And in the end, it didn't pencil out to develop a 12-lot subdivision on this site. And so we had to go back to the drawing board and find a way to increase value. And the way to increase value was to increase the number of lots. So we've had a stumbling block that the only way to add lots was to lengthen the public street. But we were limited by that code provision that said that public dead end streets were limited to 400 feet. And what we have is a 650-foot deep site. And so that's the reason for variance number 3 that we're back here tonight before new council with this new application.
Yeah, I was not the planner who presented to the planning committee. That was on the August. Yeah, that was August. I'm not finding that. I'm sorry, I wasn't aware that you needed this tonight.
Okay, I'll move forward with that.
Okay.
Not much else I can do. If you could just pull up the site plan, that would be helpful.
Yep.
Got it, we got it.
So the
Oh, where was it?
It's in planning commission
Great.
20.
Okay.
We got
So
it.
many folders. Okay.
Okay.
Can you share?
I can't share, but
Okay.
can you pull it
Yeah,
up on the
I
OneDrive?
can find it.
The planning commission 2025.
I'll
In the
just wait
packet?
here for a moment.
It's not in the packet, but it's in that folder. 820 conflict.
Sure.
So I have a question while they're looking that up.
Yes.
And it might be for the other gentleman that's online, but my understanding there's a lot of clay
So it's-
in that, in the hillside
Yeah.
up there. And I'm just concerned about, digging too deep and then erosion, excavating too deep and then there'd be erosion, because we kind of live in a wet state. So that's just a concern that just went through, that's going through my head. You're talking about some pretty massive retaining walls and, but that, like I said, my understanding is there is a lot of clay in the soil up there. And I just, like I said, concerned about erosion and, you know,
Yeah, so City of Estacada obviously has an erosion ordinance and the DEQ 1200C construction stormwater permit requirements will be applicable to this site as well. So we will have to have a very detailed erosion control plan submitted and approved by DEQ, prior to any ground disturbance happening. And as far as the clays of the site, is it possible to pull in Ben Anderson and
Oh, sure.
He's up there.
let him comment on that?
Hi, yes, this is Ben from GeoPacific.
Okay, Ben?
Hi. Yeah, we're recommending that the retaining wall along the east side of the site be a soil nail wall, which is a top-down construction and requires less, disturbance of the soil and kind of alleviates some of those concerns.
Okay, thank you.
I'll go on with the rest of my presentation if you don't mind. So slide number 2, please. So this is the site, and what we've added in here is an aerial of the property offsite to the north. So at the bottom of the page, west of the site is the Ginseng Heights subdivision that was constructed in the 1970s. And there is no street stub provided to the site. And then at the top of the page in the 2006, the Straight Line Estates subdivision was constructed, and also no street stub was provided west to this site. And in about that same time in the mid-2000s, there was a plan for a subdivision on this site called Bird's Nest 2. And it more or less had a street running straight up through this site. And I believe it was to connect into First Avenue up at the top that you see in the aerial image. And that was a 27 lot subdivision with roughly 5,000 square foot lots, but it must not have penciled out because it never got constructed either. And then a few years ago, this area up on top was partitioned into 3 lots. And that prevents a through street going through this site and connecting to anywhere else, because there's developments now around it on 3 sides. So that leaves the only way to develop this site is with a dead end street, which obviously complicates the lot and development pattern. Next slide, please. So this is kind of a close-up of the area at the top. This photo is actually from a few years ago. Now there are actually homes on all 3 lots, either built or under construction. And you can see the combination of their driveways and where there's now a home on lot 1 that's pretty close to that driveway on lot 2. So it prevents any connection from going that way. Thank you. Let's see, next slide, please, Al. So this plan shows the subdivision that's before you tonight. It ends in a hammerhead, and this hammerhead has been turned to
It's a pointer. Yeah, the other
yeah,
one, the other
hammerhead.
pointer should work, but people online won't be able to see that, but all of you sitting here will hopefully make it easier.
So it ends in a hammerhead, which is an approved turnaround for the fire department and the city. And that the hammerhead has been turned to follow the natural contours of the site to reduce the grading. And you can see there's lots accessing all around the hammerhead and on both ends. Next slide, please. So this is the 12 lot subdivision plan that came before the city council last year. And with this plan, the public street ended here. And the reason it ended here is because that was the 400-foot limit that by code the public street can only go that far. And beyond that, and so this was going to be a fire truck turnaround, and then this is 150-foot private road. And the reason it was limited to 150 feet, that is if the fire trucks go more than 150 feet, then there has to be another turnaround for them. And turnarounds are difficult on this site because by fire code, they have to be at 5% or less. So as we're trying to climb this hill to flatten out once here and then start going back up the hill and then flatten out again, we just get in too deep of a hole at the top of the site. So that extending a private road wasn't an alternative. So let's see, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is a close-up, and again, you can see that these lots are oversized up here, 10,000 square feet, 17,000, 17,000 plus, 18,000, 10,000, real big lots at the upper end of the site. And the reason for that is we had no other way to get a road up there to create more lots. So that's why that plan was designed like it was at the time. This is an R2 zone. Minimum lot size is 5,000 square feet. And we had lots that were approaching 20,000 square feet with the previous plan. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So again, this is just a close-up of the road system, hammerhead turnaround, meeting the fire department criteria, 150-foot long private road. Next slide. And you can see the issue here is there was quite a bit of grading with it. These walls, 12 feet, 14 feet. Wall over here is 7 feet. So these costs associated with these walls and the other walls are part of the added expense for this site. You know, is just another thing that kind of drove up the cost, was the cost of the retaining walls. Next slide. So this is the new subdivision plan. The design takes Panics Place intersection off 4th Avenue at the highest end of the site. If this road were to extend out here, this intersection point is 20 feet lower than this point. So that's why the road has been moved to the higher part of the site, so that we can try to use that grade to limit cuts and fills going up through the development site. I should say limit cuts going up through the development site. So there's a bit of a swing here in the road. And this allows us to have a little more run. More run means we can pick up more elevation, also helps. And the reason it ends in a hammerhead is because for a cul-de-sac to be placed here, that cul-de-sac has to have 102-foot diameter from back of sidewalk to back of sidewalk, or back at one sidewalk. Let's assume a one sidewalk design. So from curb on the one side of the cul-de-sac to the sidewalk on the other, 102 feet. And as I said before, the fire department limits the slope in a turnaround to 5%. So we could only get about a 5% or about 5 feet of grade change across a 100-foot cul-de-sac. But the natural grade change in that area of the site is 25 feet. So cul-de-sac creates a 20-foot grading issue for us up there. We have to make up 10 feet on this side of the cul-de-sac and 10 feet on that side of the cul-de-sac. So the one variance is for, as Alan mentioned, is for the sidewalk on one side of the street only. And that would be on the west side of the street. The second variance is for the 15% street grade to limit excavation and to try and create more buildable lots. And then variance 3 is to have this public street being more than 400 feet in length to the dead end. Next slide, please. So, this is station 600 right in this area. So Allen said 650 feet long. It's a little bit less than that. Depends upon where do you measure to. Station 0 begins in the center of 4th Avenue. So it's certainly beyond the 400 feet, but I would say it's less than the 650 feet. We feel that that this design is a better overall design for the neighborhood than having the turnaround in the middle of the site. It creates a more seamless neighborhood and provides better access to all of the lots. Next slide. So again, this is a little blown up diagram of the grading. Again, you can see how the hammerhead is more turned with the contours to better fit with the terrain of the site. Next slide. This is the Alan showed you the cross section. This is the turnaround grading. It's just 1% in each direction, very flat up on top for that fire truck to turn around. So this is the Panics Place profile. It's got a 100-foot long vertical curve beginning at the curb line of 4th Avenue. So there's about 80 feet of this curve that's 12% or less. It goes into 15%, and then it's got a fairly long vertical curve going into a 5% cross slope for the hammerhead. You can see pretty big area. This is at the center line of the road. You can see the pretty big excavation right in this area, and then fill moving on up. So this is where the road is kind of swinging over and downhill. We're able to pick up some grade and get out of the excavation. Next slide. So this is the 4th Avenue improvements, and 2 high priority safety improvements are included in the TSP and will be completed by this project. One is the widening of 4th Avenue. The other is for a sidewalk along 4th Avenue. This area in gray will be the new pavement. And then you can see this hatched area here, basically that's all new road that isn't there today. So basically from this point up, that's all new. In places, this road will be it's currently as narrow as 22 feet, and it'll go to 34 feet. So it'll be 12 feet wider after development. There will also be a 2,100 square foot dedication by Mr. Highlands along the frontage of the site. Next. This is a view of the 4th Avenue profile. It's in the profile below the site is in the neighborhood at 10 to 12%, increasing up to and beyond 20% beyond the site to the east, up toward heading up toward Mountain View. Next slide. And this shows that at the intersection with Panics Place, it'll be a 16% grade in 4th Avenue right at the center line intersection. By the time you get up to the east property line of the property, it's almost 19%. And then about 50 feet or so off the property, it gets up to 21%. So those are kind of explain the grades that are up in this neighborhood and some of the grades of the existing streets. That's all I have for you tonight. I'm happy to answer questions. Bill Highlands is here. He'll answer any questions that you have. And of course, we have Ben Anderson for another 20 minutes or so.
Okay, let me pass this off to the counselors at this point and see if they have questions. I'll start off with you.
Okay, the first thing I saw because actually one of my first jobs as a kid was pushing wood up to the top of these real steep sites before. So that was my experience. Other than that, I've got none. I'm a layperson. So the context of where all my questions are coming from is just worried about landslides. Steep hill, having that come down across a very narrow street and taking out the houses below. So that's where everything is coming from, is that. And so when I saw the change from 12 lots to 19, I envisioned the entire place just bare earth. And my understanding is bare earth with rain and all that kind of stuff is more susceptible to slides. There's been lots of examples, not necessarily around here that I know of hills coming down and that sort of stuff. So that's where this is coming from. And so then I did my deep dive into the document. So a couple of things in no particular order is I didn't particularly see this, but it's the landslide susceptibility graph. And I don't know if Mr. Anderson can see this stuff, but it shows that, I think it's showing that the site is got a high susceptibility to shallow landslides.
Yeah.
Just
Again,
for the graph.
Yes.
I
Yes.
have the map in front of me on paper. I can't see it on the screen, but that's a regional map, not based on anything but grades and regional geologic maps. When we studied the site and actually looked at the subsurface profile, the soils are quite stiff and more resistant to landslides than the regional mapping indicates.
So then, I'm not sure then because on the other side of this graph shows the deep landslide susceptibility, and there it's moderate susceptibility to deep landslides. But what you're saying is this doesn't correspond to what your findings are on the site?
That's correct.
Okay.
The regional maps is to give, a general idea of what the area can be like. And then it's
Okay.
up to the engineer and geologist to do an in-depth study of the actual site conditions.
So then it's a question for another time on what's the value of these then if it doesn't pertain.
Well, my understanding is that the fact that it's on the map triggers the geotechnical study.
That's right. Yeah.
Ah, gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, they're very useful, but it's just a starting place.
And then going to the hydrologic and geologic considerations. Here we go, geotechnical engineering report. It looks like some of the test pits that you did, the 5, had to do with, shrink swell potential. Looks like highly expansive soils could be on the site. Did you actually find highly expansive soils or what?
We did not find highly expansive soils on the site. We'll be on the lookout for them during construction, but we did not find any highly expansive soils in our exploration so far.
What now?
You need to speak into a microphone.
Can you hear me better now?
Mr. Highland, you need to be in front of the microphone so the community can hear you as well, please.
Okay. The other thing I didn't understand. So back to that original, what my impression was though, was there's just gonna be a whole lot more bare earth because of all these additional sites. And so if you could clarify for me, because I didn't understand the grading part about needing the cuts and stuff like that. So going from a 12% to a 15%, you're not actually widening the area you're digging, you're going down. Is that accurate?
Well, 15% we have less to take off than at 12%. 12% we're going deeper. So the greater the grade, the less through the excavation.
That's what I mean, though. You're not going out, so you're not making more bare earth. You're going just down over.
Well, 15% would allow the road to more closely match the existing terrain. So we're not going down, we're actually bringing the road up over what it would be at 12%. It'll be higher, it'll match the terrain better, and it'll narrow the footprint of the disturbance.
So
The subdivision uphill to the east had a massive cut to put it in. And so far as I can see, there's been no problem there. So that's, I think, the best you can compare. Ginseng below just seemed to follow the contour, but the road above really did. I mean, it was an amazing amount of dirt that was taken out to make that work.
Yeah, and so maybe I'm just not getting it, because that's exactly what I'm trying to figure out is my concern was the amount of what looks like to be digging that has to be done just from going to the additional number of lots. And so it sounds like whether it's 12 lots or 19 lots, the amount of digging for the road itself doesn't change if you get the 15.
Well, the road is longer than it was with the previous design. But it was, the bottom part of the development is, the road is the same as it was with the earlier design. It's only from where I showed you where that old hammerhead turnaround was in the middle of the site. From that point up, it's different and it's a longer road. So I can't say that there's less excavation than there was before, but in order for the development to actually be developed, we need those additional lots. We need that road to be extended.
Sure, I get that. I get that part. I understand I mean, I don't know the numbers, but I understand the math component, or the importance of that. And so when you're going for not actual lots themselves, the home sites themselves, it says here that all the major grading and excavation work will be complete by the time the subdivision plat is approved. So does that mean that the foundations are already done too, or is that done by the builder itself? So this is.
Yeah, that's done by the builder. Now, sometimes what may happen is that some of the lots are on the uphill side, may be cut down to some degree, and some of the building pads on the lower end of the site could be built up to make it a little easier on the home builder. We haven't had that level of discussion yet, but that's actually fairly common to try and create some more buildable lots, so there's less excavation and fill for the home builder to come in and do. It's a discussion that needs to be done with the ultimate home builder on this site. And it may end up being a developer home builder, and then they go in and do all that grading before the plat's recorded.
So I walk up and down that hill, not as often as I should, but and I almost always see the road it's wet from, I'm assuming it's the spring coming down. I didn't see there is a test pit in the vicinity, but there isn't one there. But what does a spring, if you did a test pit by a spring, what would you expect to find in something like that, Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, so we would expect to find water seepage in that area, and we did identify, the spring in our geotech report, and I think Sissel has accounted for that in their design as well to capture that water.
I'll just say we also noted that there's some roof drains from the neighboring properties that also stub out to the site. So it could be surface water that's been directed onto the site from
and not
uphill properties as well. It's likely a combination of sources.
The spring is really, I think, within 100 feet of the bottom of the property. It doesn't really go all along as you might have suggested. It's pretty localized and it's supposed to be drained. I would like to ask Ben Anderson, you know, Ben said there wasn't highly expansive soils there, but what sort of expansion did you see there? It would be nice to know, you know, if it's low, medium, or where, because we eliminated highly expansive, which sounds pretty dangerous, but if it was low expansive, then that's sort of in our favor. So could you address the expandability question, Mr. Anderson?
Yes, the results of our testing indicated it was low expansion potential.
Great.
Yeah.
That's better than medium or high.
That's right.
Right. Are you done, John? Or?
I'm gonna have to look if someone's got other questions.
Okay, yeah, let's go to Counselor.
Yeah, so that's all these samples that you're talking about. Are any of those submitted in front of us today to make this decision by chance? These soil samples that you're finding on the material that you found in what you've sampled
There was a geotechnical report that was submitted with the application. and
with
all-
the low expansion material and the list of what that was?
Yeah, so all that information.
Maybe I just missed it right here, but my other question would be, has this property not been challenging through the entirety of the process? Because if I remember correctly, this goes back a ways that this has been a challenging design. We've gone back and forth about how to work with you and how to make this property buildable and to use it, right? But now you're coming to us saying that the cost is more than you anticipated. So you're coming to us asking for cost consideration, which we already did some of this with you in going with the hammerhead and different designs to try to help make this usable. But now you want us to expand this to help bring down the costs and your profit margin I'm just asking you a direct question. I'm pretty straightforward.
We're not asking for your cost consideration. We're basically saying that the design we came to you with won't work.
Okay.
The
But-
site won't be developed, Fourth Avenue won't be improved.
But multiple times in the beginning of this, you mentioned that the wall, the expansion wall would cost more, the cinder block wall, the retention wall, excuse me, would cost more. And that, oh, the Fourth Street expansion, that's going to cost more than we initially anticipated, which, listen, I understand that the economy is hard, but you're telling me that that's not a factor, but you led with that to start this conversation. So when you're asking us for these, where is the consideration for what we would need to support this community in this? I mean, when I ask you that, it's the challenge here has been the entire time, how can we use this effectively? But that doesn't hose you entirely, right, on what's usable and what's not, and how do we develop this chunk of land? And so we found something that semi-works, but now the cost is so exponential that we should redesign this because your original plan doesn't work. But for our community, what is the benefit in this, I guess, is what I'm directly asking you.
So the benefit to this property developing to the citizens of the area is the Fourth Avenue improvements. That without this site developing, then the cost to widen Fourth Avenue falls on the city to complete the improvement. Because it's going to be this site that widens Fourth Avenue, that builds the sidewalk, that paves the entire street, and then Mr. Hines is going to get reimbursed from the city for the improvements on the opposite side of the street. But those safety improvements that are in the TSP is really the benefit to the city.
Okay, and I can appreciate that. Thank you for that. I'm just trying to ask you something very directly. That's all. And then with that, Alan, I guess, when we look at these considerations, I understand this went through the committee, but is there any concerns about impact on moving that street further up? Because when I look at this design and where they want to start this new street, I could see that being a nightmare coming down from where that hill connects, how that street is already set up.
So you're talking about Southeast Fourth?
Yes,
like,
I am.
About that.
Where the entrance to this development would be.
I heard no concerns from fire, public works, or the city engineer about the design of the ingress into the development.
Okay.
And Kurt McLeod's suggestion, the city's consulting engineer, we made the radius at the bottom quite large, so you could sort of pre-turn a little bit before you got to Fourth Street, slip slide thing coming in. So that was given some consideration to allow better turn so you could gain some visibility to what's there. Also, currently you have 22 feet of street. You're going to gain 12 feet, a whole street passage. it would actually be reasonable in that regard to consider maybe not allowing parking someplace at the bottom of Fourth Avenue. Is a separate concern because having grown up in a very steep area, we just decided we wouldn't go out when it was really bad up in the West Hills of Portland because it was just too dangerous. But people have got to get down Fourth Avenue, yeah. So we do have a nice big radius turn, so you can see going out. And Mayor Drinkmine also said he'd like to see the place be developed as single family. Although planning staff many years ago had said they were okay, maybe going R3 for greater density. You could put a big, apartment house right at the bottom and then have a park in back. But Drinkwine stated at the Christmas dinner or something that he'd rather see it stay for single family. And I think the larger lots, given the topography, frankly, in the end, I don't think I would have wanted to buy them because, you needed to be, your hiking skills needed to be there. The initial design was to try to minimize, keep the elevation change in each lot to 20 or 30 feet as opposed to bigger lots up top at like a 50-foot elevation change. That's a lot to mow the lawn or something.
So what is the benefit of more houses on this development?
I don't know. It makes it happen. I mean, frankly, I sort of wondered why I bought it. I didn't really understand the 27 lots years ago offered what I thought was a pretty good price. And, I've bought a lot of flat property in Estacada. Actually, I bought a fair amount of steep property here on the edge, mainly because, well, here it's different and that's a whole nother story. But in Fourth Avenue, I grew up in a steep area. I sort of don't feel comfortable living on a flat lot. It doesn't drain well. I think it's a very nice development. It fits in with ginseng, I think, really well in the size. The lot size averages 7,650 feet in a 5,000 square foot lot zone, although we would then have to ask for a variance over 18 lots, which we don't have. So I think it does really as well as you can, in that you have an urban area that the city didn't plan earlier to allow things that would work better. And so I'm sort of backed into doing what I can do to have it go out. The city has a considerable investment in the road, the water, the sewer. You're building a new sewer plant. 20 new homes total 19 plus 1. Well, pour a fair amount of water and money into the sewer SDC fund, water SDCs and other things for the city. So the Fourth Avenue is certainly needed, but then I don't know, what are the SDCs per lot total now? $15,000, $20,000?
And none of that is pertinent to what I'm asking you right now. I
But
can
the city
appreciate
gets,
what you're
the
saying.
city gets 20,000 for 18 lots. That's for the 60,000 bucks or
But
something.
none of us are making decisions on trying to build based on what it's gonna benefit the city financially. That's not in our, that's not in the context of this conversation.
Benefit the city was allowing this.
Please,
Okay.
thank you. I can appreciate what you've done for this city greatly. I can appreciate your investments in the properties that you purchase and develop going forward. And I thank you for investing in our city. I really do. I appreciate the things that you're doing to work with the school to do that. I'm very aware of your
Good.
resume. I know who you are. I appreciate you.
Okay.
Please hear that. Okay? That being said, what my questions are directly about that one property. That's it. It doesn't pertain to your resume. It doesn't pertain to what the city would make and benefit financially from adding houses. What it pertains to is how can we safely, without worrying about landslides, without worrying about erosion, without worrying about multiple aquifers or sinking houses or something like that pertains or going on a house, and providing safe, affordable, and something tangible that's in a, I guess in the asset sense, something that's good, a quality product for our community.
The
not-
development just above had a massive cut, had sort of the same model as this one does. I mean, that's, I think, the best thing you can say is I haven't noticed any problem up there over the years, and this is just the next property down in a similar rectangular conformation.
Did they have the same aquifer issues? Did they have the water running down the street? Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. Let me go to Jerry first and then back to you.
My question is actually towards staff. I think that during the last the last time we considered this property, the question was asked is, what is another, just to get get an idea of that 15% grade, what's a comparable street in the city that, you know, we can visualize that 15% grade?
Yeah, so
You know,
Pat,
I understand that they pointed out that at some point on Reagan, it goes up, but nobody here likes Reagan or Fifth. So I'm just trying to figure out another, you know, I think Mike actually asked it during the last one was, you
yeah,
know, a comparable street in the city so we can visualize what.
the two that come to mind are Oakview Lane and Ginseng, and I believe there's one that comes off of Ginseng to the east that curves. It's called Valley Oak or something like that I believe. But for sure, Ginseng and Oakview, I think they're around 15.
Counselor, if I may, ginseng, there is parts on ginseng coming off of Fourth Avenue that are at 15%. Oakview seems to be closer to 12%.
Okay.
And then if you're familiar with Fourth Avenue at the lower end of this site where you kind of come out of the curve, that's close to 12% at the lower end of the site. That's about the best I can do for you in that 12 to 15% range.
So how much of that 650 feet, how much of that 650 feet is going to be at 15%?
Again, 650 feet is a kind of an overestimation of what it is, but there's a 100-foot vertical curve at the bottom that goes from 0 to 15. So 80% or 80 feet of that 100 feet will be between 0 and 12%. And then the last 20 feet of it will be between 12 and 15. And then it'll be in 15% grade, pretty much up to about 100 feet from the hammerhead, where it will begin to flatten back out.
300 feet? 200 feet?
It's of the 600, let's say of 600 feet, it's probably 400 feet. So there's about 100 feet on each end. That's either transition or it's at 12% or less. I feel like, okay.
Did you get your question answered? Right?
Well, I'm like I said, I'm just trying to visualize it, just again, I live on a hill. I live on Edge Hill. And I've seen, the winter storms that we get. I've been the cause of a car sliding down to the bottom of the hill. So I'm just concerned, 15% with street parking, just the slightest little, wind gust could come and start a car, sliding down a hill. So, I mean, that's just where my brain went, with this, that's I don't know, safety aspect. I'm just, I don't know if I'm okay with the 15%, but let me think about it some more.
I can say that 15% is common in other communities, but obviously other communities don't have the weather that Estacada has. And I'm not trying to say that it's not different out here. It is, but the cities that have hillsides like Westland or Oregon City, 15% is allowed outright.
Yeah, we're just a little higher in elevation and, we have our weird weather pattern out here that, it doesn't seem like many of the other cities around, see, so. I just have to wrap my brain around it a little bit.
Okay, Matthew, and then I'll get to you, Jen. I'm gonna get through the first.
To kind of piggyback off what Jerry's saying, aside from the weather, I work with traffic and safety quite frequently. And a big issue that we're having in a lot of these communities that have really tight groupings of housings is parking. And if Oakview is the closest example to what this road would be, what are the relative grades tentatively of the driveways? Because on Oakview, they're pretty steep. Nobody likes to park in their driveway. Everyone parks on the road. So, I mean, you can Google map it, you can drive it right now. The entire roads, everyone parks on the side of the road. And if we're going to have one side of parking, I mean, that's going to gum up real fast. And then if we got houses behind houses, right, is there, I mean, I see a huge issue with parking and, you know, if there's 2 vehicles, 3 vehicles as kids grow and age or whatnot, you know, it's like has kind of going down what Jonathan's talking about, like, how's that gonna work with our community? You know, let's say a new family rolls in 15 years, 16 years from now, kid's got a car, you know, like it's packing that many houses, being that everyone has to commute to work, it makes me nervous just because of all the other developments are just so packed with cars, right? And then you have the issue with weather and I don't know, do you have
So-
anything to say about that?
Sure. So half of the street is gonna be fill. They're gonna be downhill lots.
Mhm.
So I would anticipate that those driveways will be flat on the west side of the road. The 15% grade allows us to get the road up higher so that there's less cut on the uphill side. In talking to the potential builder, our understanding is that the lots that are on the uphill side, some of them will be candidates for the garage under design, where you basically come in flat in your first level, your first floor is basically just the garage.
Yeah,
And then your
so
living space is above.
They have those on Oakview
Mhm.
and the first like 3 houses, nobody parks there. They all park on the road because it's such a ridiculous steep driveway.
Now, what the difference I think between this site and Oakview is in Oakview, as you go up the hill, it's very steep on both sides, whereas on this site, it's going to be downhill lots on the one side. That'll be the most significant difference. These lots are, they typically range from about 62 to 80 feet wide. So if you take an average width of about 70 feet, if you put a driveway with wings on a 70-foot wide lot, you can actually get 2 cars parked out.
What about
in front.
the houses that are behind houses? I mean, those gotta be pretty large driveways.
Those are actually fairly flat driveways. It's a little bit difficult for me to say what will the driveways look like or what will they be, because that's
That's
gonna be
good.
up to the home builder and not.
I just wanted
knows?
to, I mean, you've been doing this for a while. I just was curious on what your take was on it because Oakview is just clogged. And I'd hate to see another clogged environment, you know?
Mhm.
Oakview, as I understand it, has some very narrow lot widths on it. Yeah, one of the things we really tried to do was to give you a lot of frontage, so you had some options on how, you know, on it, I mean, so, you know, we do have, if we did average 70 feet of frontage, you would take away 20 feet for a driveway, that leaves you 50 feet of parking or whatever. You have a 50-foot lot, you take away 20 feet, you know, that's 30 feet, so we have, you know, half again or better frontage for people to use. And, you know, having grown up in a terrible place for whatever, we just didn't go out. Because, I mean, I think Broadway Drive up the hill, you know, 20-25% grades in places that don't have sort of a cliffside. So basically you need to buy, I mean, in really bad weather, you need to buy some crampons and park your car down on the flats and walk down. Otherwise, physics is just going to suck you down. And if you're insane enough to try to drive on something that's undrivable, physics is going to do its job. So, you know, that is a consideration.
I just wanted to point out to the mayor and council that Ben Anderson has a time restriction at 7:30. If you have any other questions for him.
Yeah, John?
Yeah, you know, getting to it, it's all about, you know, stability. And so in the report, and I understand the test pits, he didn't find, they found highly expensive fat clay soils, but they tested it and it wasn't expansive in those test pits. But all throughout the report, and this is where my concern comes in, they talk about shrink swell potential, However, it should be noted that highly expansive flat clay soils have been encountered in the site vicinity, and GeoPacific should be requested to inspect the soils during the construction of the roadway and installation of the underground utilities, meaning he may find it, you know, in conjunction with the graph that we saw here, where it's an area where it's known to be of landslide susceptibility, and then the fat clay soils are known to be in this area, although he didn't find them in the test pits. And then also the slope stability, where again, in the test pits didn't find that, but also the landslide susceptibility mapping categorized the site as having a moderate to highly susceptible to shallow seep landslides, referring to this. So there's just worried about the increase in the amount of excavation going on up there. And I understand that test pit sites didn't find things to necessarily be concerned about, but it seems to be in an area where you could potentially step on a landmine or something like that, pardon the analogy. So that's where I'm coming from. And if there's a way to mitigate that, because it is all about safety, I'd be interested in hearing.
Ben, could you address that?
Yeah, I can address that. So a lot of the language in there is things we just have to acknowledge, but it's more of, I mean, technically kind of a disclaimer of like, regarding the expansive soils, we have to acknowledge that we might find them, but and when we say in the site vicinity, we're talking like, the nearest I can think of is like a mile away. We found some. So it's like, not an immediate hazard, not something that we're thinking that we will find, but we just would be remiss if we didn't mention that it's a possibility in there in the report. And then similar thing with the landslide risk. We have to acknowledge that the map identifies the hazard, but when we studied the site and analyzed the site conditions, we concluded that the site is relatively stable and good for development. So when you see those things that might alarm you in the report, it's important for them to be there, for everyone to be aware of what potential risks are and acknowledge those. But if you look at our conclusions, neither the expansive soils nor the slope instability was deemed to be a hazards for the site.
Yep.
How many test pits along that road did you do on the entirety of the length of the new proposed road? Is there multiple test pits? I'm just trying to be respectful of your time. I'm sorry to cut in, Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, no problem. And we don't have test pits like right along the road. That's not something that we were focused on with our investigation. But we can extrapolate from the explorations we do have to make judgments about the site, and then we're also counting on us being out there during construction to solve any issues that come up during construction.
Yeah. So just to honor your time, this is not a question really, because I think there's a beauty in the way the houses kind of go up like that. Believe it or not, in my early childhood, I grew up in Sausalito, San Francisco, and all the streets are straight up over there. But it has a beauty all its own. There's really nothing we can say to you tonight that's going to determine a no on this, because realistically, you followed all the rules that we've set before you. Okay. Our fear is my biggest fear is the slippage. I live right across from where you're building that development, and my house had to be geotech twice because it started slipping when they were putting in the foundation. There's a lot of underground water, and those hills are unpredictable. There's a lot of water flow underneath there, but I think that's the biggest fear we all have here, because going out of this, it's a very steep street. I worry about the fact that delivery is going up there, trash trucks going up there, everything, because we're already running into that in a few streets where it's a problem to get them back and forth. And I mean, we've got numerous issues with that, but we're trying to, work our way through it. And we just want to make sure we do this right going into it. So that said, I just want us to look at everything because this is very, very touchy ground when you get that steep. But at the same time, I think you've answered all the questions tonight. I know they've hit you with a lot of them, and we respect your time and we respect everything that you're doing here. Because like I said, it's going to be on the developer when they put those houses in to determine how safe they are. So we're going to have to hit this again on a different level. But
I think that's true. And to that, I would say, a big part of what we do as geotechnical engineers is that we want to be out there when the homes are constructed, and each lot gets a review. We get to see the site conditions and soil conditions when they dig out the foundation, and to avoid problems like you had on your property, we want to make sure that all the homes are stable.
yeah, and I can appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that said, have all questions been addressed here that we have? Okay, so we will move on with this and we will get to them. We thank you for your time up there. And we thank you, Ben. Okay. Now that the applicant has, let me see what comments concerning the application. Okay. Address the councils. Are there any questions, any further questions staff has or anything that we want to put into this? Are we clear?
I think we're very good.
No, I think we're good.
Okay,
Yeah, I
great.
think we're good.
I will now close the public hearing and reopen city council. And then we will look at this. We need a motion on this.
Now we're back to the options.
Okay, so Alan, I'll hand that off to you to read off the options.
Sure. So yeah, the options are to approve with conditions as presented by staff, to approve but change, add, or remove any conditions, or to deny with findings that one or more of the approval criteria are unable to be met.
Okay,
I move to approve with conditions as presented by staff.
okay. That's the motion we have on the floor. Can I get a second on that? Am I not getting a second? All right. That goes away. And we ask for another motion. Can I get a motion?
I move to approve, but change, add, or remove conditions. Or add, actually.
Second.
We would need to know what the addition was before we can do a second.
Can we discuss that?
At this point, can we discuss?
What's your addition to the condition?
It's still the same thing, and I will admit to a high level of frustration, going through this information and seeing all of this stuff in the report and being told that, well, that doesn't really mean anything, is what it seemed like. I want that to be developed. I mean, I agree completely. I've lived in homes that are up on steep hills, and I like that kind of stuff. So it's not that at all. It is absolutely, my reticence is based absolutely on this report that I'm reading, and to hear them say, well, it's not really like that. I'm uncomfortable with that. In fact, that's a terrible word. I don't like that word. I don't like that. And so a condition I would like to see is maybe some additional test pits or something like that. Whatever that looks like. I'm not an engineer. I don't know what that looks like, but I would like that, some additional whatever it's called. Geotech for that site.
That was
Okay.
going to be my recommendation as well. More of them specifically along the road and where the retaining wall is going to go, that back to the properties that already exist. I mean, I feel like we have the obligation to make sure that once they dig this out, they don't lose the house, their backyard above them or something like that. I know that we're talking about that, but I agree with Councilman Doles on this. I'd like to see more pits. I mean, they're looking at, I didn't have, to be clear, Mr. Highland and them, I didn't have the geo report in my packet, so I apologize for being unprepared. That wasn't in front of me to look at, but I would like to see, when I looked at the map that Councilman Doza had, I'd like to see closer to the spring, more of those samples like that, those test pit samples to see determining what that clay is, or that soil material is closer to to the spring or any other aquifer on that. And I'd like to see more of them definitely along the road, and then anything that would be within the building parameters of where these houses and their footings would be, because what happens if the developer builds and then again, foundations start to sink? They could be 40% through the project, moving on, selling houses, building this next phase, and homeowners could get in their house and then come to find that their foundation of their house is sinking because I mean, we've seen it in commercial buildings, in Portland. I can reference that for you if you'd like. I mean, there's one currently right now, Pence Kelly on 9th and Morrison, Southwest 9th and Morrison. You could give them a call and ask them about how much money they dumped into trying to stop a building from sinking in a similar situation. So I'm not against developing it. I think it's beautiful. I do think Mr. Highland has done a lot for our community in trying to provide something that is of use to the community and within the design and intent, but I would love to see more. I just don't take you at your word saying, well, it's good. It don't really got to consider that, but we got to put it in there in case what? I'm in good faith. I can't look at any of our constituents if something was to go wrong and say, well, they said it was okay.
Okay. So Alan.
Yeah.
On this question, you've got two people here talking about their concerns and adding more testing in there. Is that something that we can even ask for at this point? I mean, please.
Well, I just want to remind council that recommended condition 36 is for an updated geotechnical report, and it needs to be reviewed and approved by the city prior to any earthwork activities. So I'm wondering if additional testing is wanted, like, would it be above and beyond what this condition is asking for an updated report, or?
Well, is additional test pits part of that new report?
Maybe the applicant could. I'm not really sure. Yeah, maybe they can speak to that.
Yeah, so again, Pat, Sisselis Engineering, according to Mr. Highland, if additional test pits are desired, then the geotechnical report has to be updated per condition 36. And if additional test pits are necessary to satisfy council, then additional test pits will be included.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that going to satisfy?
So that sounds like then that we can go with what Jerry said.
Jerry, and that was number 2, right?
No, number 1.
Number one. Okay. Okay.
You don't need that other verbiage.
So we didn't get so just to be clear, we did not get a second.
Understood, but I'm.
Oh, no, we
clarifying
did
what-
get a second on this one.
Yes.
So we have to
Oh,
vote,
gotcha.
we have to vote on John's motion.
Yep.
I withdraw the motion.
Okay, you withdraw the motion. Okay, so we're going back.
Then again, I move to approve with conditions as presented by staff.
Okay.
Second.
So it's a first and a second on that. I will
Well,
do a
the
roll.
lawyer's itchy scratchy.
Yeah, can
We
we
did
have-
something wrong.
Oh,
Oh,
Linda asked
Pardon
before I had a comment on that.
I was going to recommend that the second motion approve with the modification of condition 36 to include
I withdraw my
additional
motion.
test pits would more certainly meet what the council is saying
yeah.
and
okay.
asking for.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So now, John, if that meets your criteria, then will you please make a motion on 2,
Okay.
and then we'll ask for a second.
Can I withdraw it or should I say it again?
Say it again.
No, just say it again. Start over. You've already.
I move to approve, but add a condition of additional test pits
Condition.
To condition number 36.
Yeah,
to condition number 36.
okay.
Second.
Yeah, first and second. Let's do roll call vote on that, please. Is it right? Are we?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I was having trouble with the mic. Okay. Counselor Blevins,
Yes.
Counselor Dolzall,
Yes.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Metcalf,
Yes.
Counselor Tenbush,
Yes.
Mayor Drinkwine.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, I think we got past that safely. My head's still attached. Okay. We will move on to the next. Whoop. The next on the list, I got another public hearing, so we will open the next public hearing and close the city council. We are on ordinance 2025-008, an ordinance amending Title 16 Development of the Estacada Municipal Code. Is that right?
That is correct. So I am going to present now the planning commission's recommendation for ordinance 2025-008, which is the sign code amendments package that I've been working on for several months. All right. Okay, so just to give everyone a bit of background. So by earlier this year, staff had recognized that the city's sign regulations are often difficult for applicants to interpret and for staff to apply and enforce. The format is complicated, definitions and standards are often unclear. So in April, council directed staff to draft revisions to the sign code with an aim of simplifying and clarifying existing regulations. And so in June, we proposed a new organizational structure for the main sign code chapter, which is 16.72, as well as the addition of supplemental visual materials, including pictures, figures, and an allowances table. And so at that meeting, council directed staff to draft the proposed code amendments and create supplementary materials. So this ordinance comprises all of those amendments and materials. So fast forward to the beginning of October, Planning Commission considered the ordinance and voted unanimously to recommend approval of it. And that brings us to today. So in a nutshell, this ordinance would enact the following revisions. So like I said, a full reorganization of 16.72, which is the sign code chapter. It would also amend sign standards and references in 8 other development code chapters to conform to the changes that are proposed in 1672. It would clarify and expand definitions related to signage for clarity and better understanding by residents and staff. It would delete contradictory and needless, legally indefensible language. So that's a lot of the content-based language that is in the code right now. It would eliminate a lot of that. It adds a picture glossary of sign types. That is included in the exhibit. Would remove content-based language, as I mentioned, and it would alter some policies as requested by council. All right, so we'll get into the approval criteria. So in order for council to adopt this ordinance, which involves amending the city's development code, all relevant approval criteria must be met. So in this case, that includes statewide planning goals, Estacada's comprehensive plan goals, and chapter 16.128 of the development code. And so I'll start with that chapter. So that's 16.128. There's 4 sections, and here is the first. So it stipulates that legislative amendments may be initiated only by Planning Commission or City Council. And these amendments were initiated by council, so this criterion is met. Okay, and these standards outline the procedure that must be followed when amending the development code. And we are essentially performing these steps right now. And so these criteria are being met. Okay, so we are also in the process of doing these things, which is, findings shall be made in writing and made public. The Planning Commission has done that, and at the end of this hearing, findings will be made by City Council in support or in denial of this ordinance. So we are working through this as well. And then finally, this criterion requires that no application for an amendment to the development code shall be considered by Planning Commission within a 1-year period immediately following a previous denial of a similar request. So no similar amendment has been proposed and then denied in the past year. So this criterion is met. And now I will discuss statewide planning goals and the comp plan goals. So the city sent published information about this hearing to the local paper and published it on the city website. Also sent notice to the State Planning Agency, DLCD, and is otherwise following all pertinent land use laws related to public hearings. So these procedural goals have been met or are being met at the time. Okay, so most of the state and comprehensive plan goals do not apply to these amendments, and here's a list of all of those that do not apply. However, there is one comprehensive plan chapter that is related to these amendments, and that is chapter 7, which is on economic development in the city. And specifically, one policy applies here, and that's downtown policy 6, which reads that the city is to implement design guidelines and standards, including an exterior, or what, I can skip that part. Implement design guidelines and standards, as well as regulations for signs that requires pedestrian scale, pedestrian oriented signage, while prohibiting large auto-oriented signage. And by clarifying existing sign code regulations that require pedestrian scaled and oriented signage and prohibiting some large forms of auto-oriented signage, this ordinance supports downtown policy 6. And so the Planning Commission finds that these amendments are consistent with chapter 7 of the comprehensive plan. And the Planning Commission is recommending approval of this ordinance without any conditions of approval. And so next steps are, I will field any questions. If there's anyone in the public that would like to give testimony, they're free to do so. Council can discuss, and then it'll be time for a decision.
Okay, and I'll just read this statement before we go any further. Is there any correspondence regarding this application at all?
I do not believe so, no.
Okay, I will now read a statement about evidence presented at the hearing. And an issue which may be the basis for appeal to LUBA must be raised prior to the close of record at the final eventuary hearing on the specific application. Such issue shall be raised with sufficient specificity so as to afford LUBA and the parties an adequate opportunity to respond to each issue. Failure of an issue to be raised at the hearing or in person or by letter, or failure to provide sufficient specificity to afford LUBA and the parties an adequate opportunity to respond to this issue precludes an appeal to LUBA on that issue. Okay, does any member of the audience, I don't have any speaker forms, so there's nobody talking on this. Does staff have any additional stuff they'd like to add at this point?
I don't think so. That's good.
No? Okay, I will now close the public hearing and reopen the city council. And now we'll put those things back up that you had.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Can I make a motion?
sure.
I move to approve ordinance 2025-008 and ordinance amending Title 16 Development of the Estacada Municipal Code.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much for that.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay, moving along, we are at council business. The first thing I have on council business, the Estacada Lake apartment discussion. You're all familiar with this? We've had it in front of us. Melanie, I'm going to hand this off to you at this point, and you can
Okay.
kind of go over some of the details of this.
Yes, I have just a few details. I did invite, I just lost my, no, I didn't. I did invite the development team, Suzanne and Susan Hamilton and Jeff, whose last name slipped my mind right now. That I invited them to come to the council meeting and they declined to come, but they do have, I'm reading here, they do have all 6 of their buildings approved by Northwest Code Pros. And so they're ready to be paid for and picked up. And right now, our department is waiting for final information on SDC amounts to invoice it out. And they have, they're again, under that 6-month timeline, they have 180 days at which time to pick those up and pay for them. Otherwise, they would expire unless they're extended. So they've been able to meet all of the requirements for all 6 buildings as far as Northwest Code Pros, fire, planning, everybody's looked at them and they are ready to be picked up. But I didn't really have other, they did say they would pay for the permits as soon as they're planning to get their erosion control, remove the trees, and they have the couple of structures to demolish, which they do have permits for. They're going to do that and then get their building permits paid for and issued. So that is all I know.
So you've sent out the letter that we
Yes,
requested.
I did send out, I should have started with that. I sent out the letter that you requested.
Okay.
For
And so they have 30 days from the time that letter was issued to have all
everything in.
into
And-
the city.
And it is all in and it is all approved.
Okay.
So they are still planning to move forward. And that's the information that they gave me.
Okay, so in the discussion, you've heard that all the information is in the city's hands at this point. So they have to finish their part of it, but that has nothing to do with the fact that the permits and everything have been filed. So they have followed procedure up to this point, and what we've asked in that 30-day has been presented to the city. So as we stand right now, they have followed what we've asked. So this is where we are. So in this discussion, if anybody would like to speak on this, you more than welcome to, but the requirements we've asked for are in. Jerry.
So what happens when? I'm saying when because I just expect it to happen at this point. That 180 days comes around. Can we then? What are our options at that point?
If they have not paid for and had their permits issued within that 180 days, they can do 90-day extensions if they request those. And when I was speaking with Northwest Code Pros today, they said because they're contract, they contract with us, they're not on staff, that they would coordinate with us to make the decision on whether that's a legitimate extension or not. And so we'd be able to weigh in on that.
Okay. Yes, Joe.
I appreciate that the 6-month thing, or that 6 buildings and the permits are in the city's hands. So thank you for doing that. But then part of in my mind, I also think when we said you have 30 days to rectify the situation, that would be to be through transaction as well. So I struggle with that in my mind because I think, okay, cool, you got approved plans, but now pay for them. Like build your building or don't. That's literally the same repetitive conversation, but now almost in a different format. Like we're just circling the wagon again, but now they have approved plans, thankfully. But hopefully within 6 months, and this is not a shot at staff or nothing like that, right? But hopefully within 6 months, they pay. Or if not, they could extend 90 days and here we are circling the wagon again. So like, I struggle with this personally.
Yeah, no.
I struggle to see completion when it's not paid. I do understand your legal perspective on that they have 180 days to pay for their collective permits, but our condition said, take care of this.
Or at least show good faith, right?
Yeah, and I just struggle with this one's too.
I see 179 days and then, I mean, just, they've been kicking the can. They're gonna keep kicking the can. This is. How do we?
Well, I think having new legal here, this is new that you've been involved in this, so I'm gonna throw it at you anyway, but I understand if you're not, up to speed on a lot of what's going on with this particular project. But from their perspective, we've been through this for a very long time. On an issue which they could have solved relatively easily if they were really on top of this project like they should be. There was a lot of good faith, they're gonna start, they keep saying that. And it doesn't happen, and it's our riverfront, so we're very concerned with what happens down there. Now, the original goal was to have this at least started and something accomplished so we can figure out our plan for the riverfront, but they've been stalling and stalling and stalling, so it's really made it really hard to do anything. And they've kept within the boundary of the law so far on their part. But our patience is to a point where they've drug us out so long on all of this. They've used our city staff time to get some of this figured out because they couldn't figure it out. Now, it seems to me somebody doing a project of this size would have been more on top of this. That said, they're keeping within the boundary. where do we stand at this point? What can we do to either push it along or end it and start over? Because it's holding up a lot of different things for us. Because we have a lot of plans coming forward. Our city is growing. We're really looking to do things, and we're stuck in this, you know, well, you've heard it. And we don't know what to do.
The dead horse has been there for years.
Yeah. So we're kind of asking, and I know it might be kind of hard for you because like I said, you haven't really had a chance to get yourself up to speed on this. But at the same time, any recommendations from you would help at this point. We're just looking for something to proceed forward. How do we do that? Legally, from a legal standpoint, without putting ourselves in any kind of situation.
Thank you for the question, Mayor Drinkwine. I have no answers for you tonight, but I will absolutely look at your code. I've seen some of the issue briefings, and Melanie told me generally about this application. I think this is, coming into this, we're all hearing for the first time about their response to your 30-day letter. So we can talk with staff and come back with some options.
Okay, that would be good. I can appreciate that. But at the same time, we're sitting there waiting still. Jonathan.
In those options is, and I know I'm just speaking aloud, I'm sure that you would, but like, is there a way to make it finite? Say we allow the 6-month there. Is there a way to shore up that this is it, period, the end? There is no extent, like, do we have legal parameters, or do you have counsel on that? And I know maybe you can't answer that right now, but is there a way to back us? Because I mean, we're at a point where this is for our community and their wants. And then also this is setting a precedence for other developers to come into our community and play games with us in front of our constituents that put us here with the expectation to make decisions that represent them, their values, and also that develop this city in a way that's tangible to them, right?
Yeah, so basically, can we dig in our heels on this on this 6-month thing? Can we dig in our heels and, you have to have your permits paid by then, and SDCs too? I don't know if that's the thing.
Yes. Well, our finance, they can finance SDCs, but they need to have that arrangement made.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think Jonathan and I are on the same page with that. Can we dig in our heels and just, no
I
extension?
think we all are on the same page with that.
Melanie, you had something you want to
I
add?
was just gonna add that at least because of that 30-day letter, that you sent, and because they have got all of their permits in, it's not, the only thing they can do to extend that, they either have to ask for an extension or they pay for their permits. There's no more back and forth, like they would send in something that's updated and it still doesn't meet the code. And so, but that extends it another 180 days. And there's no more of that back and forth. It's done. The only thing they can do to extend that is to get those issued. And then they are on the clock for like building. I think the point of the deadline for the permits is so that sometimes people will abandon a project and you don't want to keep them on the books forever. So you say, okay, you've decided not to build, it's been 180 days, we're calling this quits and closing the file. Or it's taken longer. And so they can extend it, but it has to be, one of the comments was about, like, they can't halfway build a structure and then let it be getting deteriorated, or not make it a safe building. So it's like to keep the process going, but we'll have to look into if there's any way to actually have a hard deadline where they would start over, and would that accomplish anything? I'm not sure.
Could we also make it clear, like, is there a way we could set, and this is, again, just, there will be no deviation from the submitted approved plans.
Oh, do you have a comment on that?
So the Oregon State Structural Code had a new code cycle, and so they issued new state guidelines for building codes that went into effect October 1st. And there's like a 6-month transitionary period where you can use those old codes in that 6 months, but after that 6 months, you have to use the new code. So their plans would have to be updated if they had to resubmit plans because the structural code has changed.
Somehow we could, sorry, somehow I think we could lean on that. I mean, I would say that if this is not done in 6 months, to your point, anyway, there will be no modifications. We're not, don't bother asking. You
Right,
know,
that
like,
would be
we're not
definitely,
I don't care about, oh, we ran into this. I mean, because this is something we keep hearing from developers. Oh, we didn't expect this associated cost. Things cost more now. But we understand that, but that's also not the city's problem.
right, and that could be that would be a strong determinant on whether they could get an extension. If they got one extension, there's no guarantee that we wouldn't have to necessarily issue another extension. So at some point, they would have to probably resubmit and go by the new code. If they're not gonna build in a reasonable amount of time. So but we can look into that and determine what our code says and.
Okay. So is everybody comfortable with that on this discussion? So I can move on to the next item. Yes, okay. All right, we'll move that on to the next. We are now at the sponsorship request for Philip Foster Fund.
Yes, we have Elaine Butler, who has been patiently waiting this whole time. If you have any questions for her, Philip Foster Farm is making a request for the community sponsorship. They do a Christmas event that is free to the public, brings in people from outside the community, and a lot of our own community can attend that. And so I'll let Elaine say anything else you want to say about it, or.
I think that the application pretty much said it. It's been going for years now. And we want to make sure that it keeps going. We have run into financial difficulties in the last couple of years because we have a long-term volunteer who really is retiring. And so we're having to spend a lot more money on maintenance and really hiring people to fill in some of those roles. So as we figure out how to fund all the things we want to fund for the community, we could get a little help with this event, that would be great.
Okay, that sounds fair enough. You've all seen the request in there in your packets. Are you all comfortable with this? So you need a vote on this? All right. Can I have a vote on the floor, please?
Motion?
Yep.
I move to approve Philip Foster's application, the
Second.
request.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Elaine.
Thank you for being patient too.
No. Okay, next we have another sponsorship request
Yes.
for St. Aloysius,
There
St.
we-
Vincent de Paul.
And we have Terry Brown here to speak for
Yeah.
that one. And to thank you again, Terry, for your patience.
Sent you the last one in the room also. And Kerry back there, but that's it. He's just holding up a pole.
Alright.
Thank you for considering my request. We're one of 4 sites that I know of in Estacada that provide food. The food bank downtown, St. Aloysius, St. Vincent de Paul, the Seventh-day Adventist cow, they call it, the mobile trailer comes in the 4th Tuesday of the month for a couple hours, and people can go and get food out of the trailer. And a satellite of the food bank is up at the high school. I think they give food boxes. So we service about 200 families a month. We're open on the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays from 10 to 1, 10:30 to 1. So we run about 100 families through in that 2.5 hours. That's doesn't take very long to get them through. But we also provide rent and utility assistance for people who their power is going to be shut off, or they're going to be evicted, or their water is going to be shut off. And the food, we give food for anybody that meets the USDA income standards. And you can't make so much money. It's on a lower income bracket. So it depends on if it's 1 person or 4 or 8 in a family, what their limit would be. And they self-certify. I can't ask them for any proof of what their income is or anything like that. They have to self-certify. But for rent in utility, we limit the area that we service to Estacada, Eagle Creek. Molalla, will go out to Molalla, and then, the St. Vincent de Paul, we do $300 per family per year. But we also, coordinate with the Seventh-day Adventist Yellow House, and they will do 300. So we can do a maximum of $600 to help people. And we get requests all the time, and they're increasing. So it's just, anything I can get is really appreciated. I spend between $2,000 and $3,000 a month for food. That's not counting rent and utility. We also provide personal care products that they can't buy with their, whatever those cards they have, toilet paper, toothpaste, toothbrushes, soap, those kinds of things that they can't get. Another program that they're starting with, St. Vincent de Paul has started a thrift store on 171st and Powell. And they're starting a voucher program where we can issue a voucher of so much money, and they can take that voucher into the thrift store and purchase whatever they need, whether it's clothes, shoes, furniture, whatever they need. If they have a house fire, whatever it is. So that's another aspect of what we do. So, and in my application, I only guesstimate how much. I don't have a fixed income from some source. It's whatever donations I can get, and whatever comes in goes out. Except I do have a $500 a year overhead, and that's what we pay for the rent for the hall up at the St. Aloysius Church, which is nothing really.
Are you still running the food bus out of there also?
Pardon me?
The food bus that you had coming up into your lot, is
Yeah.
that still running as well?
Yeah.
Okay, great. What was the request amount on that, Melanie?
$1,500, yeah.
Okay. Jonathan?
Question.
Okay.
I have a soft spot for veterans, obviously.
Sure.
And especially in today's time. Can we do more?
I was gonna ask this.
Well, let's take a look at this. Do you have a running tally of where we're at right now? Because I want to make sure, that we're able to do this safely without cutting.
Yes, so if this, with the request you just approved, and then with this request, it would bring you down, so you started at 15,000, then you would be remaining, the remaining amount would be 10,500. So you could do this now and that with and then maybe wait till spring and see how it's going, and if you want to donate more, or you could, our program was set at this limit, but that would be up to you. It's at your discretion.
So,
I'd like to propose we move it to 2,500, give them $1,000 more, make it tangible directly to the people in our community. This is where it sounds like the majority of your service is, and I don't have a problem with Eagle Creek being on the fringes. That doesn't bother me whatsoever personally. I think this is a chance for us to show a different type of support. Now, I typically like to see this type of thing, us make these kinds of actions, I think towards like especially recreational stuff, things for kids, but I think veterans, first responders, stuff like that, the communities that they serve have long been neglected. And this is opportunity for us to address this, I believe, in a small way.
okay, let's get the feel in the room. Council, is this something that you're comfortable with on all?
Yeah, I think that, this is what this program, this is another good example, perfect example of what this program was designed for. So, I'm behind it 100%.
Okay, I'm getting the sense that we're all behind it 100%. So let's go to a vote on this. Let's go to a vote that reads with the increase. So whoever wants to put that.
I move to approve the application by St. Aloysius, St. Vincent de Paul with the increase up to $2,500.
Second. Okay, we got a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Now, mind you, going into this, we've just increased his particular request $1,000. So there's a chance you're going to have other groups coming to you with a little bit more of a need, and you're going to have to really look at this. So just so we're on the same page.
And we're left with then $9,500 for the rest of the program.
Yes, yes. And we appreciate you coming in.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I'd like to say one thing. I applaud the city council. I was on the city council in the early 80s. I was on the planning commission, then the city council. And the way you guys question what they were applying for, I'm really impressed with the council, what they do. It's amazing. And Mr. Highland hasn't lived here that long, but if he was, he would remember that just the other side of Bennett's Tire Store, that hillside came down. And the people probably had a pucker factor one morning when they got up and looked down and their backyard was down at 224.
That was 1996, I believe, right?
Somewhere in there, I don't remember. Yeah, and then before that, up off of First Street, where the funeral home is, the other side of it, between the bank and the post office, that hillside came down. So it's
Well,
prone to slides.
Oh, yeah, it happens a lot around here. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, in my backyard alone, I had to hire 2 separate occasions for geology to come in to get the developer to stamp it down a little bit more, or to add more rock in, just to save that corner of my house. So I know what it's like. But we appreciate you and thank you. We're gonna keep on track here.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
and it's nice to have a compliment. It really is for us. We don't hear a lot of those.
Well, you're doing a good job.
Thank you very much.
Melanie is doing a great job.
Yes, she is. And thank all of you for making the right choices at the right time. It makes a difference, obviously, in our community. So thank you. Okay, next on the list, I have sponsorship, no, hold on. I got second consideration for ordinance 2025-004 and ordinance amending title, what is that? Title 16, Development of the Estacada Municipal Code, Cannabis.
I move to approve ordinance 2025-004 and ordinance amending Title 16, Development of the Estacada Municipal Code, Cannabis.
Okay. A motion on the floor.
Second.
First and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next I have ordinance 2025-011, an ordinance amending chapter 13.12, sewers of the Estacada Municipal Code.
Okay, this ordinance is being presented. It updates to add increased monitoring and prevention for grease entering the sewer lines from food service establishments. And so it is pretty straightforward. It adds definitions and some fat, oil, and grease language. Makes some other minor edits, changing public works supervisor to public works director, things like that. Updates billing procedures to match the current process and allows for flexibility on the month of the year when rates are updated. Usually we try to keep that standard, but just gives us some flexibility.
All right, now on changing somebody's title, does that change their pay scale as well, or is that something?
No, the title had been changed on our pay scale already, so to
Okay.
director from supervisor.
Okay.
And so this is just making the code match up with the titles that we
I'm
have.
just making sure we cover our bases on this one, so
Yes.
thank you. All right, John.
I was really happy to see this. I think this is a great example of you guys catching something that gets overlooked, especially given the current issues in financing and things we're
Yes.
trying to solve for with the sewer treatment plant. And then Don has done an amazing job. He absolutely deserves the title. I understand your concern.
Oh, yeah,
about
no, I'm
changes.
just
Yeah, on that. I
Covering our
just-
bases.
He absolutely deserves the title. Yeah, thank you for
Okay.
catching this.
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
Any other questions?
so we're looking for a motion on the floor, is that right?
Yep.
All right, can I get a motion on the floor, please?
I move to approve ordinance 2025-011 and ordinance amending chapter 13.12 sewers of the Estacada Municipal Code.
All right, can I get a second, please?
A second.
First and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Last citizen and community group comments, seeing as we have none in the room. I'm not counting you, Carrie. I know you're there.
He's not even paying attention.
I know he's focused. Okay. And we have none online, right?
Correct.
All right, great. Mayor and council reports and comments. I'm going to start off with Jonathan tonight.
Well, I was hoping there'd be people in the room to share this with, but sharing it with people online is just as good for me. As some of you in this room know and others don't, I've been a part of working on the timber, in particular in the lumber with legislation and at the state level. I was, myself and Senator Drazen worked to present the White House with a document, a brief that I wrote that opened up the 1.5 million acres in timber that's able to be logged in Oregon. I was a part of writing that executive order, assisted by Christina Drazen, Senator Drazen, excuse me. With that, I've had a lot of time to work with her over off and on in dealing with complicated issues and things about industry and leadership and changes that we need and things that we need going forward for small communities and rural communities. So that being said, I've made the decision to seek the appointment for the state representative seat that Senator Drazen left, and I will be moving forward with that appointment. Hopefully within the next 30 days, I will know whether I will be a state representative, and at which that time I'll make a decision. Obviously, I will have to resign the seat if that's the case. I did want to take an opportunity to tell the community that it's been an honor and a privilege to grow up here, politically speaking, and to learn from you guys the needs and the assets and the things that we're going to need to create real change, real impact. My mind on this comes from making sure that our voices are heard, that people understand that we need to see our tax dollars and the decision and the literature that's being written, the legislation and the codes that are being written, that they're tangible to rural communities as well, and that they come with economy, with infrastructure, and that they represent the industries that built this country, this state in particular. So with that, I just want to say thank you. And I want to encourage anybody, if you would like to reach out to me, to talk to me. I can't do this alone. This is going to take an army, but it's time for Estacada to have a face and have a sword in this fight. And I'm going to step into that. So I want to say thank you for the complicated conversations tonight. It's always with the most respect, and it's always fun to get into this engaged, even with Mr. Highland, who's done a lot for our community. Yet we're still able to be respectful. We're still able to have the hard conversation and make the right decisions as a unit, which I think is super important. I'd like to thank the chief here and the police. Honestly, the increase in town, the response immediately is what this community needed. They needed to see a strength from their leadership to say, hey, put your foot down, do something, not talk about it, but do. And I hope that my announcement and my intentions is another way to show that I'm willing to do something more for this community and the other communities that need us. So thank you very much. It's been a great conversation, and I appreciate all of you more than you'll ever know.
Okay, thank you. Wow. Jerry.
I don't want to follow that up. Well, first off, go Jonathan, man. That's amazing. I can't wait to congratulate you. Thanks to the staff for another amazing packet. Thanks to Public Works for all the hard work that they're putting in. They're getting a lot of stuff done quickly. It's nice to see. It's amazing to see. I really appreciate the conversations tonight, the questions. I mean, just it was good. You know, you could tell we all had the same concern. We don't want to have 19 more homes built just to have them slide down into the pre-existing homes. I don't want to put a 15-degree road up there with only street parking just to have those, the car that's at the top get hit by wind and then chain reaction, boom, 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 all those other cars piling into that house that's at the bottom of that swoop, but we did what we could. We got the answers that we needed. And I'm really proud of this council for, we're really digging our heels in lately. And I'm really happy about that. I mean, and thank you, Chief, for such a quick response to what we voiced just last Tuesday. Appreciate it. I appreciate you all, and thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for that. Matthew, let's hit you next.
Gosh, I don't have much more to add to any of that, but I want to reiterate most of it. Jonathan, congratulations. That's awesome. Thank you, staff. Thank you, council members. Thanks everybody that came, even though there's nobody in here anymore. Yeah, we need to keep our city as our city. We need to take it by the reins and not let people come in and think that they're gonna kick the can and prevent us from actually moving forward. That's all I got.
All right. Melissa?
Oh my gosh. I am so excited for you. Like, whew. I could cry, but I won't. No, I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you to, Melanie and your staff are amazing. They always show up. They have the answers for what I've seen on Johnny on the spot. And that's usually really, really difficult to do at times. I want to take an opportunity to thank the community for providing opportunity for us to provide more homes, that people are actually like, the people that showed up tonight to talk about the places that they want to put their money into to provide homes for other people. I think that's very giving in themselves. And I love the fact that we're able to have the conversation and dialogue that we need to make sure that there's safety involved. But I just want to take the opportunity to also say that you're living proof. I'm going to circle back to you of what it looks like for someone to step up and have a voice. And I'm hoping that that is also something that people at home can feel as well, because without prayer, faith, and direction, we have nothing. And I really applaud you for that. Yeah, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. John?
Personally, I aspire to be the international man of mystery, but I want to acknowledge Jonathan's decision. I personally believe that he's got the passion, the intellect, and the courage to pursue something like that, because it's certainly not something I'd want to do. Also, thank you to the staff. The amount of information was copious, but it was there. And I really appreciate that. A lot of work, a lot of just keeping things going. I actually really appreciate the council too. I mean, as complicated as the conversations were, we were able to keep things going. And I really appreciate that too. So great job to everyone. This is a very enjoyable group of people to work with, and I appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry?
Okay, sorry to, don't usually do this, but, with the possible opportunity of another position on this city council, I just want to remind everybody that we really need people to step up and get involved. Follow in the footsteps of Jonathan Metcalf, who was appointed to this council. Follow in the footsteps of Melissa Hill, who was appointed to this council. Follow in the footsteps of Matthew Blevins, who was appointed to this council. We need people to volunteer. This is a volunteer position. We need the city to we need the community to get involved. We have, like I said earlier, we have openings on multiple committees and commissions, and possibly an opening on this city council. So just please get involved. Please, check out the city's website, see if there's any commission or committee that you'll that fits your lifestyle, fits what you do. It fits something that, if you can add to that committee, please, consider it. And then, like I said, if this opportunity goes through for Jonathan, we're going to need another butt in these seats up here. So please get involved. Please, consider it. Thank you.
Okay. And last but not least, thank you, staff, for another wonderful meeting. And you guys did a great job laying it out. Everything was in front of me. It was nice to have that. It's always nice to have everything right in front of me. Makes it real easy. Chief, for stepping up, putting your people out there, doing exactly what we asked for. And I'm seeing it makes a world of difference. And we appreciate you and all of your people. So let them know. And just the community for coming out and being a part of it and making these meetings what they are. It's nice to hear everybody's input. And I feel like everybody leaves this room with questions answered, which hasn't always been the case. We've all made ourselves very clear, and they've asked us questions that are really tough. But you guys have all come out of this with even keeled answers and well thought out, which I can appreciate. That said, I want to thank everybody for tonight. It's always a learning experience for me because I think you guys are going to do something. You come out of this with totally different direction on me. It blows me away. I'm just like the proud father. Let's just put it that way. And to you, Jonathan, like I said, congratulations, man. That's a big step. And you know, that's a lot of headaches you haven't even begun to touch yet. But I think you're the man to do it. You're pretty straightforward and trusting, and I think you'll do a great job for this state. So thank you for that. In that, I'm going to close this meeting. This council is closed.
And please, if anybody has seen the score of the Kansas City game, don't tell me. I'm gonna go home and watch it.